Welcome to Smash Fiction, the podcast where I haven't done this in a while, but I'm pretty sure it's where 2 or more fictional characters get it on. In combat, you dirty bastard. Whether mentally or physically. This week, a fiery fracas, a winged wrangle, a scaled skirmish. It's the 4-way dragon fight royale! Featuring Trogdor, Bahamut, Draco, and Smaug. Oh my, this does not look good.
Oh no.
No, not good at all.
Well, we're going to have to clear all this rubble lest our customers be unable to access their funds.
Yes, but where will we keep all this gold?
Let me call an old acquaintance and see if she can help.
Hello?
Oh, Don Michael, your lordship. So good to hear your voice. How's the family in Italy? Oh, there's a problem at the bank. Oh, yes. I'm certainly happy to help you and the bank out during the renovations. When will, all of it arrive? Oh dear. Just so you're aware, we're holding the renowned and renewed Tri-Wizard Tournament, now called the Quadwizard Tournament, at the same time. There could be a lot of traffic at Hogwarts. I see it is quite the emergency. I shall await your arrival then. Headmistress Hermione Granger hung up the phone and sighed heavily in her chair. The problems just seemed to keep piling on. ... Next scene. What are we gonna do about the tournament's biggest competition? Charlie can't seem to trap a single dragon anymore. What the bloody hell do I know what to do, Ron? I don't know, Hagrid. You always seemed good at these things. You must be the worst gamekeeper to ever have worked at Hogwarts, Ron, you hear? Oh, no. As Hogwarts' new gamekeeper, Ron did not want to disappoint his dear wife or his alma mater. Writing a message into the air to be sent via transmission spell to the multiverse, Ron writes, calling 4 dragons to serve as combatants in Hogwarts Quadwizard Tournament. Riches, or a gold star for educating wizards, to follow for participation. Making that last part up, Ron sent his message not knowing that riches were certainly on their way to Hogwarts, but that they weren't meant for any dragon. Answering the call were 4 dragons, Bahamut, Smaug, Draco, and Trogdor, who participated valiantly in the tournament. At the end of the festivities, Smaug approaches Ron, wondering where his reward is. Ron responds meekly, oh yes, here's your card to the 3 broomsticks for a lifetime supply of butter. Yeah, oh no, I don't think you're going to like this. This is not what was promised. Where are the riches? The 4 dragons said, and of course Draco's in the background wondering where his gold star is for being a good person. Dragon. At this point, the other 3 dragons closed in around the new gamekeeper. Ron, having recently found out about Hogwarts as a temporary vault for Gringotts, pointed into the castle. There! It's in there! Lots of riches! Like gold! Over there! Looking at each other with wary eyes, 3 dragons looked at each other and flew off towards the gold. Meanwhile, Draco's like, no, you guys aren't gonna get that. That's not yours. And leapt into the air, flying towards the castle. Before any one of them could claim the Gringotts gold, or prevent the other 3, they would have to get through each other first. This week, I, Liz Logan, will be your dragon judge, stepping down from space into the magic world.
Into an alternate universe where Maleficent apparently stepped down from being headmistress at Hogwarts, or maybe that'll be explained in another episode of Smash Fic.
Nope, now it's Hermione. We're making it simple.
All right, cool. We'll fill in that plot hole later. It's fine. It's all fine.
Gotta fill that in for my next judge segment. My job now is apparently just patching continuity holes.
Representing Trogdor from Homestar Runner is Claire Mulcairn.
Do you want to draw, Claire? That's easy. Feel free to follow along with my simple step-by-step directions. We begin with the legs, so draw an L for leg. Then draw another, more different L for other leg. Then make a triangle for her dress. And this part is multiple choice. You can fill it in with either of her 2 favorite colors, black or rainbow. Add a little Ramona Flowers haircut, and finally, when you draw her face, make sure to give her a big smile. because Claire is always smiling when she is about to win a Smash Fiction match.
Oh, so good.
Representing Bahamut from Final Fantasy X is Dan Mulcairn.
I very specifically requested a rat tail in my rider, and I do not see a rat tail here. That's a joke for all you Final Fantasy 1 fans out there.
Ha 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 ha! I had to do that at some point.
That is the appropriate response, Liz. Thank you.
Representing Draco from Dragonheart is Kit Mulcairn.
Stop calling me Kit. I have a name, but it's impossible to pronounce it in your tongue.
And representing Smaug from The Hobbit is Megan Bob.
My full title is Megan Bob, chiefest and most adorable of calamities.
Time for an on the dragonfly. On the fly. But I added dragon.
Yes, I got it.
Determination for who goes first.
Oh, it's like a...
I know, right? It's amazing. I'm thinking of a number between 1 and dragon. Just kidding, it's 100. Please pick a number.
All right, 73.
Wait, you have to, send it to me.
Why can't we just yell it?
Well, I guess you can do that. I haven't picked a number yet, though.
Okay, well, let us know when you're ready.
Yeah, you tell us, Liz.
I think I'm between 1 and 200 now. I have my number. Claire, go first.
100.
Dan.
57.
Kit.
69, you cowards.
Bob.
169.
Oh, shit!
So after I picked the illustrious number of 199 between 1 and 200, our order is Bob, Claire, Kit, and Dan. So let's begin. Bob, light this fire.
Scaly, sinuous, surprisingly nimble for his size, and possessed of a voice that will make your underwear melt. Smaug is the fire drake you've been looking for. He'll steal all your gold, steal your heart, and then set fire to the rain, and probably everything else. This dreamy, steamy lizard boy will sniff you out, even if you try to hide from him. Trogdor! Stealth won't work, as Bilbo proves in The Desolation of Smaug when he gets into Smaug's gold pit. And no matter what stonework masterpiece he tries to hide behind, that giant face is there, flexing those shockingly large nostrils. More on those nostrils later. Smaug is such a good slither baby that he can wind and bust his way through Erebor without losing speed or getting tangled in all of that boner-worthy dwarven architecture. So many pillars and bridges, guys! But when Smaug is chasing the dwarves through the mountain, he slips between and around those things like a souped-up corgi in a doggy obstacle course. This means that close quarters won't bother him at all, and this fight is definitely going to vary between ranged and melee. Smaug is a wriggly lad, probably because he's had nothing to do for the past 171 years but count his gold and do his yoga DVDs. Am I saying that Smaug has a horde of TVs and workout videos? No.
Oh.
What I am saying is that I can think of literally no other possible explanation for how a dragon that big is able to move around like a greased eel. In the air, Smaug does a flying twist move that would make Tony L. Hawkrond, Elf Tony Hawk, soups jealous. At the end of Desolation of Smaug, he goes from ground to airborne in about 2 wing beats, which tells us that Smaug can not just do ground and air attacks, but can transition between them easily. I don't know how many times you can hear us talk about fire breathing before you lose the will to live, so I'm going to keep this to the point. He instantly superheats stone, turning it red hot under the dwarf's feet. Within a 5-minute action sequence, he has turned the entire town of Dale to flaming ruin. The movie tries not to linger on it because of the rating, etc., but there are some villagers that are basically vaporized during the town-destroying sequence. Obviously, the other dragons are fiery so-and-sos, but let me put this in perspective. Smaug can walk through fire without feeling it at all. Smaug can be attacked with molten gold, which is just under 2,000 degrees Fahrenheit, and all it does is make him angry and fabulous. In terms of blunt attacks, he blows through the enormous stone doors of Erebor like trick or treat! He smashes through a bridge and shoves over a pillar that's as big as he is. Say what you like about him, but he has a bold vision for interior decor. And back to that spacious nostril I mentioned earlier. We don't really know how big Smaug is, because for once in his gloriously long-winded life, J.R.R. Tolkien decided not to describe every millimeter of a thing. What we do know is that in the book, the secret tunnel Bilbo uses to get down to where Smaug and the treasure is 5 feet tall and wide enough for 3 to walk abreast. And once Smaug is fully grown, all he can fit into this secret tunnel is the tip of his nostril. I'm not a biologist, Your Honor, but Smaug sounds pretty big. Bigger than Draco, bigger than Bahamut, way bigger than Trogdor, and able to deal out damage accordingly. My ragey dragon son sums it up neatly, saying, I kill where I wish, and none dare resist. I laid low the warriors of old, and their like is not in the world today. Then I was but young and tender. Now I am old and strong.
I will say, Rivendell would be a tremendous stage in Tony Hawk. That would be amazing.
Those are some pointed arguments. Let's continue with our next dragon testant, Trogdor.
We all know Trogdor, or at least we think we do. S, more different S, consummate Vs, winglings, beefy arm, majesty lines for majesty. But what do we really know about Trogdor? As I began my quest to understand the Burninator, I did not realize where it would lead. It is now my sad burden to carry this forbidden knowledge, and unless you too wish to be crushed by the weight of this terrifying truth, I urge you to turn off your podcast player now. Trogdor's theme song begins with the cryptic lyrics, Trogdor was a man. I mean, he was a dragon man. Or maybe he was just a dragon, but he was still Trogdor. Right from his first appearance, Trogdor's lore is mired in contradictory myths and legends. He is similarly portrayed wildly inconsistently across all Homestar Runner shorts and pieces of peripheral media. For instance, how big is he? In Strong Bad's Cool Game for Attractive People Episode 5:8-bit is enough, Trogdor is the size of a human. But in Peasant Quest, Trogdor is comically gargantuan, easily over 20 stories tall, far larger than any of the other dragons in this match. In the Trogdor Flash game, he can seemingly be defeated by mortals temporarily, but he also returns from the dead due to his multiple lives. In 8-bit is enough in Peasant Quest, legend states that he can only be defeated by the Trog Sword. In Peasant Quest, even if you have the Trog Sword when you finally confront Trogdor at the end of the game, Trogdor reveals that not even the Trog Sword can defeat him and he just burninates you, and that's the end of the game. That's considered beating the game, for the record, the best ending you can get. And also in that game, if you approach him at the wrong time while he is sleeping, Trogdor can accidentally kill you in his sleep by breathing on you. This incarnation of Trogdor is so far beyond the power level of the other dragons in this match that it's laughable. In 8-bit is enough his power level seems a bit lower, because in the final battle with him, Strongbad can seemingly kill Trogdor with the Trog Sword, but after doing so, Strongbad wakes up and it is revealed that the final battle with Trogdor was a hallucination, and Trogdor is still at large rampaging around free country USA, and that's where the game ends. So in 2 of his 3 video game appearances, Trogdor is definitively indestructible, and in all 3 of his appearances, whether protagonist or antagonist, Trogdor wins! Unlike, for the record, all 3 of his competitors in this match, who are all killed by plucky human adventurers in their own stories. So wait, how big is he? What can kill him? You're missing the point! You need to think bigger! I bring you back to the Majesty lines. Weird story, in the first printing of the Trogdor t-shirt, they didn't have Majesty lines surrounding him, but the Brothers chaps corrected this in later printings, saying it was a mistake. Why? What was it about that shining aura around Trogdor that was so fundamental to him as a character that they had to do a second printing? These Majesty lines clearly convey that there's something about Trogdor such that simply looking at him overwhelms the senses such that you lose your grip on reality. Was he a man? Or a dragon man? Or a dragon? I can't remember. You may think this sounds ridiculous, but remember that while in his presence, Strongbad had a hallucination where he dreamed of defeating Trogdor only to then awake and discover that Trogdor was still alive. For a time, these were all disparate facts to me, but then they all clicked into place while I was playing Peasant Quest and came across Trogdor's cave. There I encountered a group of spooky figures in green robes known as the Keepers of Trogdor, who worship the Burninator in the manner of a cult. The Keepers of Trogdor also appear in the recently released Trogdor board game, in which we see that under their green hoods, many of them have horns or beaks or a strange number of eyes. Look up the artwork, it's very different from normal Homestar Runner art, and it's proper nightmare fuel. In order for all these seemingly contradictory facts to describe the same character, he can't just be a dragon in the traditional sense. He's a villain who always wins. The mere sight of him drives people insane. He's worshipped by a cult, and any human who sets out to destroy him is doomed to die, and every legend that exists about how to kill him turns out to be a myth. I really didn't think my research would take me here, but I gotta report the facts as I see him, and the facts say that Trogdor has a lot more in common with certain monsters from the Lovecraft mythos than he does a traditional dragon. But there's only one joke on the internet that's more of a dead horse at this point than Trogdor, and that's Cthulhu. So let's not use that term. Let's just call him a great cold one.
Yeah.
Burninating all your dragons, burninating your arguments, burninating your sanity, Trogdor Fathagan. Maybe when you see him, Trogdor will be a man, maybe he will be a dragon man, maybe he will be a dragon. But long after all the stars have gone out and heat death has burninated the universe, he will still be, always and eternal, Trogdor.
Kit, I am glad you are the one following this. Channel your inner dragon breath.
Let's start this off in Judge Logan's favorite way. A 6-pointed crown of ivory horns that frame wise, powerful amber eyes. Rich, chestnut-colored scales layered like the scale mail of a knight. A voice as deep and rich as a dark roast coffee with a generous layer of 50-year-old scotch.
Ooh.
Draco's got a lot of external physiological traits that make him the dragon to beat in this match. First off, when the dragon-slaying knight Bowen finally stumbles upon Draco's swanky waterfall lair, my dragon dude is perfectly camouflaged. Like a magical cuttlefish, his body looks exactly like the boulders surrounding the river, right down to the texture. That monk was sitting directly on top of him and wasn't the wiser. Draco is a very pokey, scaly boy, but clearly he's got some level of magical ability to smooth all that out when it's time for stealth. Solid Snake would be proud. In a 4-way battle, every little edge is going to count, and my boy's ability to evade and sneak attack could mean the difference between burninating and being burninated. Besides the teeth and claws that are a given with dragons, or swords and spears if you want to be overdramatic like Smaug, besides all that, Draco's tail is a built-in, terrifyingly large pair of scissors combined with an axe, depending on what he needs to be. Another literal edge the other dragons don't have. Look at all those normal-ass tails! Look at them! Disgusting. Well, I guess you can't, because this is an audio medium, but you're not going to hear any of my opponents talk about their dragon's tails. Trust me. Except maybe Smaug. Because he's like super extra, just like a theater kid.
Yeah.
Going back to that sweet waterfall lair, Draco's fiery breath had the force to burn through the waterfall. How strong do his toasty lungs have to be in order to get fire to push through a waterfall? I don't know. I'm not a physics major, and I ain't doing the math. But you gotta admit, that shit's just about as crazy as that time Pikachu, an electric type, knocked out Onix, a rock type. Am I right?
Yeah.
Pokemon people? Yes, thank you.
Yes.
And how many of you other winged lizards can rip out a chunk of your heart, use it to save a douchebag kid's life, and be totally fine afterwards? Y'all got magical divisible hearts? No. In fact, one of y'all died when a human-made stick poked you in the heart, basically. My boy had to get a heavy axe all up in there, and the only reason that axe hit Draco is because he wanted it to hit him. Draco was damn good at catching weapons that come at his chest. The important part on a dragon, the real important part. He catches ballista bolts over and over again throughout the movie. Every single dragon in this match has either died or been knocked out in their respective media, but only one died because he chose to for the greater good. If young Remus Lupin wasn't so damn evil, Draco never would have let himself die. Look, at the end of the day, Draco is motivated by a need that a lot of us can relate to. Getting into heaven, baby! And to get to dragon heaven, to make sure his dragon soul doesn't poof out of existence and instead lives on among the stars with his dragon kin, he's got to be worthy. The dragons of Dragonheart are beings of good, so worthiness involves some kind of great deed. While all these other dragons in this match are fighting over some trivial shit to satisfy their draconic greed, Drake's out here fighting to make the world a better place so he can meet Dragon Jesus. I'm guessing. I don't know for sure. The Dragon Bible was lost to history. I rest my case. Dragon Amen.
Yeah! All right. Last up, Bahamut. It's your time to shine. Your scales.
Listen, y'all. Dragons are a big deal. If you were to pit any of the dragons in this match up against any character, pulled at random from another Smashfic match, I'd feel pretty safe putting my money on the dragon, sight unseen. This is due, of course, to the tremendous gap in power between your average dragon and your average human. But in today's match, we're about to find that a similar gap exists between one of the competitors and his 3 opponents. With that extremely leading statement, let's talk about Bahamut. Bahamut's been seen many times throughout the Final Fantasy series. In some of these incarnations, he's been the King of the Dragons in FF1, and the God of Eidolons in FF4. Of course, we're talking today about Bahamut specifically as he appears in Final Fantasy X. While this incarnation may not be explicitly seen nuking continents from orbit, as many other versions do, it's clear that he's retained most, if not all, of the power and ferocity that has made dozens of fantasy worlds quake in fear at the mere mention of his name. First of all, his physical strikes alone are enough to rip enemies to pieces, often requiring only a single strike of his claw. During his summon animation, he lands on the ground with enough force to send up chunks of rubble and almost knock Yuna completely off her feet. Yuna is his summoner. He's presumably trying to be as gentle as possible when he lands next to her, but he has so much raw power that he still causes a small earthquake when he touches the ground. Furthermore, many lesser attacks just plain don't work against Bahamut. It takes a hell of a lot to get Bahamut to drop his imperious arms-crossed stance. Volleys of missiles, bolts of lightning, and physical strikes from the game's strongest bosses barely even seem to get a nonchalant grunt out of him. And plenty of attacks from the toxic breath of a Malboro to the petrifying gaze of a cockatrice don't warrant even that level of response. But unlike his competitors here today, Bahamut is more than just amazing physical power. Bahamut is arguably the most powerful magic-using Aeon in FF10, second only to the Magus Sisters, although he's easily their superior in terms of his tactical decision-making. He's able to use each of the keystone black magic spells up to their highest level. Fire, water, ice, and lightning are all his to command, allowing him to pinpoint any elemental weaknesses his opponents probably don't even know they possess. He can also perform an attack called Impulse, which is basically a wave of destructive energy capable of wiping out entire groups of enemies at once. Any of his competitors that happen to find themselves ganged up on in this match will quickly find themselves taken out. But Bahamut can take on multiple attackers at once without breaking a sweat. But of course, I'd be remiss if I didn't talk about Mega Flare. This attack hits multiple enemies at once and creates a towering nuclear explosion that reaches so far into the sky that the top of it can't actually be seen from the ground. This attack ignores both defense and evasion. In other words, you can't dodge it, and no amount of thick draconic hide will protect you from it. All you can do is disappear into a cloud of your constituent atoms. Bahamut is one of the few Aeons in FF10 that is capable of breaking the damage cap as soon as you get him. This means that his power is, in a very real sense, off the charts. It means that, even after you've developed Tidus and his companions to high levels, gathering magic weapons and items from across Spira, and collecting a stable of other demigod-type Aeons, Bahamut will still be miles beyond anything you've seen or been able to do up to that point. The best strategies to fighting Bahamut in any Final Fantasy game inevitably involve using extremely precise and well-thought-out team tactics, layering on different spell combinations, and relying on piles and piles of healing items to get you through. Not one of these other dragons can even use magic, much less elixirs. They'll just be yet another random encounter that the King of the Dragons will end in a blast of nuclear annihilation. Cue the victory music.
Dun, 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 dun.
Oh, thank you. I wasn't expecting that.
Everyone, it is time to claw your way to the finish. Since Bob went first, Bob will be defending her champion dragon Smaug, while everyone else attempts to lasso him to the ground?
You know, just like in The Hobbit.
Smaug dies because he has a weakness. He has like a missing scoot.
What is a scoots? I don't understand.
A scoot are like the belly scales. It's right on his chest. You know, the important part of the dragon. Where the heart is. He's so fucking cocky that he like brags about this hole. In the book that comes into play because then the dude who kills him knows exactly where to shoot. That's not how he dies in the movie. In the movie, the hole is just so goddamn obvious that the dude who kills him just sees it and then kills him. I mean, either way you slice it, that's pretty shitty.
So he was cocky about his hole. Okay, great point, kid.
Or the hole is just very big.
I mean, I guess the other dragons could notice it. I don't know how they would get close enough and not be in range of the breath weapon to do anything about it. I also don't think Smaug is going to be regaling them with tales of how he lost that particular scale. Now, I am fully prepared for a side quest in which you and the other dragons go undercover to a bar somewhere in Dale and listen to 3 hours of Tolkien-based songs, and therefore you find this out.
Oh, man.
If that's what you're saying, I am so here for that.
So apart from just the weakness on his belly, which is a big deal, as Kim was getting out, I think the deeper issue is just his pride, which even if we don't know about his belly weakness, he's gonna tell us. In the book, he puts a bunch of treasure all over his belly. He's like, hey, look at all this treasure I put on my belly. That protects my weak belly, because it's like armor. Aren't I so smart? Can't you tell how smart I am? And he doesn't even check to make sure it's all covered, because he got a spot with no treasure on it. But he's too busy talking about how great he is. But even if it's not that, there's some other element about his pride that's gonna hoist him via his own petard and whatnot.
So, yes, he is. In the book, he's a little bit more self-aware about it, and he is arrogant, but he uses that same self-assuredness and turns it on other people as well. So he has this blind spot, but he also uses it and plants seeds of doubt in other people with the force of his personality. So in a single conversation, he takes Bilbo, who spent months with the dwarves, and says, yeah, but do they really have your best interests at heart? And the sheer force of his personality. The book says, to quote, Smaug had rather an overwhelming personality. He makes Bilbo go, oh man, maybe they don't. Like, he's going to turn all of you with the force of his arrogance.
Listen, Bahamut's from a world that's like full of dragons and ridiculous elemental demigods, and he is consistently considered to be at least among the strongest, if not the strongest. But honestly, I feel like Smaug is only noteworthy because he's just like one of very few dragons that we ever get to see in Middle-earth. Of the named dragons in Tolkien's works that actually get any sort of page or word count, we have Glaurung, who is the so-called father of dragons, very impressive.
Say some Tolkien words.
There's Anselgon the Black, who is canonically the greatest, most powerful of all dragons, not Smaug. We have Skatha, who's the greatest of the so-called long worms. Smaug, he's not the greatest anything. He's not the most powerful anything. He's just one dragon that decided to take a nap on some dwarf treasure.
Cool. All right. I would roll with that and say that Bahamut is only as big as like 3 Yunas on one another's shoulders. So like, I feel like Smaug is going to accidentally step on Bahamut if we're talking about greatest.
Now everyone pile onto the Burninator, Trogdor.
I'm just going to say this. I think he's going to be too distracted by burninating. Not goal focused. Too many focus on peasants and thatched roof cottages.
Burninating all the people, you say?
Yeah, and the countryside. I don't think nothing about burninating other dragons, but mostly the countryside. I think you are going to go to the neighboring village. Hogsmeade is going to be in ruins.
I mean, that'll just give all the other dragons time to weaken each other while he's powering up on peasants, because as we have learned from the Trogdor Flash game, killing peasants actually just powers up his burnination bar so that he can unleash his fire and become, like, invincible and shit. So he'll, like, take a detour and kill some peasants along the way, and then you'll all be fighting each other, and he'll come in all powered up and burninate you.
Claire, you presented a baffling argument that Trogdor is in fact an eldritch entity because peasants are scared of him. I feel like this is the sort of thing where you're talking about like fairy tales where one time back in medieval Europe, there was an unusually large bear that lived in the woods. And like, as the story gets passed down, it turns into this nightmare monster. Trogdor gets killed by arrows. He gets killed by knights. He only attacks peasants. He never fights another dragon. I just think he's an animal, basically.
I mean, that is true in one of his incarnations. That's true in the Trogdor Flash game. But that in Peasant Quest, what's the dude's name? Rather Dashing is the size of one of his toes when he's fully standing. In like the trailer for Peasant Quest, he like casts shadows that go past the horizon and there's earthquakes when he steps. He's of a similar level of power in 8-Bit Is Enough, where he's the final boss of the game. So that's one of his 3 incarnations where he's that weak, and then in 2 other ones he seems a lot more powerful. So I think there's just some variation in here, and I don't know why the one where he's weakest is the one that you're saying is canon, when I'm saying it's a mix, it's somewhere in between.
Going back to this song, there is a lyric that says, Trogdor comes in the night. Does that imply he is nocturnal and will have much difficulty fighting with these other dragons with their more versatile vision? Yes. I rest my case.
Look, I mean, we all have our own sleep cycle.
Is the song not canon?
No, it totally is. He's in that phase of his life where he kind of stays up late partying, eating peasants and burning the countryside and stuff, then kind of crashes. I mean, he doesn't have a day job to go to, and he's just kind of like a night owl. So I don't necessarily think that that's an issue, and we haven't definitively stated what time of day it's taking place in.
Let's move on to Draco.
Okay, Kit. The dragons in Dragonheart are hunted to extinction by a single knight with a non-magical bow and a non-magical sword. I will grant you that Draco is probably stronger than the dragon that we see Dennis Quaid kill in the early scenes of the movie, but he's not that much stronger.
How do you know? He's the last one, motherfuckers.
He gets his tail caught in a tree because he's overconfident and is not paying attention.
Wait. Seriously? You with your Smaug are telling me Draco's overconfident?
It takes one to know one.
You brag about a hole in your fucking chest. You're like, no, I'm not gonna hit this. Oh! Whereas Draco catches your fucking bullshit.
I just think that Draco's not that far away from being just a normal animal. The idea of humans who hunt dragons is just like a very normal thing in this setting. They're just like animals that can be killed and stuff. He fights Dennis Quaid, freaking Dennis Quaid, a shitty-ass normal human, to a standstill. That's the whole point of the scene where he gets in his mouth and he's holding the sword, because the two are supposed to be equals. This dragon is an equal to medieval Dennis Quaid.
Well, first of all, he does ultimately defeat him. But second of all, yeah, he's an incredibly competent animal. I don't know why you're shitting on animals when all of y'all's dragons have died in your respective media. As I've stated,
not Trogdor.
Yes, Trogdor in those early games, you're somewhere in the middle. He is killable. He's very hard to kill, sure, just like Draco, the last one.
Okay, moving on. Lastly to Bahamut.
There we go. I've heard that your attacks are slower than other Aeon's attacks.
So first of all, other Aeons include Ixion, who is a horse basically made out of lightning.
Why are you trying to seduce me?
And Ifrit, who's a fire demon. These guys are faster than Bahamut, but you know what? They don't hit nearly as hard as Bahamut, and they can't take nearly as much punishment as Bahamut. Those two are faster than any of the other dragons here too. Bahamut is at least as fast as the other dragons, but I guarantee you, he hits much, much harder than they do. I don't care how larger than him they are.
Yeah, sure. I'm sure Bahamut can take a few hits, which is probably good because he's probably the second cockiest fucking dragon in this match. He, in a very Final Fantasy-esque fashion, he just stands there and takes hits. But, like, more than other Final Fantasy things, because this motherfucker just crosses his arms and, like, lets the things whittle down his HP. So, maybe not the best idea in a fight against 3 other dragons, especially something as massive as Smaug.
Guys, size does not matter for this match. Bahamut can make a nuclear explosion, the top of which cannot be seen from the ground. Bahamut is able to one-shot parts of Sin, who is a gigantic sky whale that threatens a planet. How big you guys are does not matter. And in terms of his Final Fantasy strategy, standing there with his arms crossed, there are thousands of enemies that you have to beat in Final Fantasy. Bahamut can go through all of them. And you know what? The more you hit him, the more he can use Mega Flare. He will outlast you and he will vaporize all of you.
Their physical forms of Aeons are still very fragile. The game is balanced such that an Aeon is about as tough as your party, sometimes a little bit tougher or a little bit weaker depending on the Aeon. Bahamut's one of the stronger Aeons, but not the strongest. He's a little tougher than 3 dudes, your 3 adventurers, but his physical form can still be destroyed. As a matter of fact, against high-level bosses, using an Aeon as a sacrificial shield just to summon to take a big attack is the primary way that a lot of Aeons are useful late in the game.
So none of you guys are packing nearly as much power as any of the major bosses in FF10. And when you say that, like, an Aeon like Bahamut is about as strong as 3 dudes, what you're saying is they're about as strong as a Final Fantasy party, which are 3 adventurers that have access to magic, to high-level magic weapons, to all sorts of, like, crazy supernatural abilities. All of your dragons can and have been killed by 1 dude with no magic weapons. So in my mind, that makes Bahamut more than capable of taking out any or all of you.
That was certainly quite the fight. Now to move on to something way more fun. I don't have dragon sound effects anymore, but it's the hypothetical Dragonfire lightning round. Cue lightning music.
Oh man!
Oh fuck.
Let's just calm down, everyone. Let's just suspend reality for a second where we haven't already been fighting. and the dragons loved each other instead.
Aw.
And you guys found the Gringotts gold, and you decided to split it evenly. I don't know why Draco wanted some. He just did anyways, to buy, like, brownies for people. I don't know. So, what on earth, as a dragon, do you do with all that money? Start a small business? No. Open a nightclub? No. Buy sheep for farmers? No. Because it all gets stolen from each of you by none other than Danny Ocean of Ocean's 11 fame.
Oh, no.
Quite pleased with himself, Danny Ocean invites all 4 of you dragons to one of Las Vegas's premier casinos, where all 5 of you sit down, somehow, to the most high-stakes poker game any of you have ever played. On the line, all of the Gringotts treasure. So we're all sitting here at this poker game. I'd like you to walk me through your poker strategy and what you look like, whose tells you're gonna see, what you think they are, how you're gonna read your opponents, and how you're gonna keep cool under pressure yourself. Are you gonna play big or play more subtly? Also, I want to hear about, your outfits, dragon fashion. Anyways, it's all on the line in Vegas, baby! And if you know any poker stuff and you're able to bring it up, that's extra points in my heart. Alright, since Meg and Bob went first in the main round, Dan, you are taking the lead here.
So Bahamut walks into this poker tournament. He was just at Hogwarts, so he had to search that area for an outfit that he could wear that would be appropriate. And as it turns out, he's a pretty big dude, and the only outfit that was in the area that could possibly fit him was a piece of clothing worn by Olympe Maxime from the Beauxbatons Academy of Magic. She's a half giant, and therefore Bahamut walks in a very poor-fitting red cocktail dress. He cuts a very dashing figure in this dress, of course, but it turns out he's actually quite good at poker. In FF10, when you are fighting, Bahamut only has like 2 stances that he does, and his expression never changes. Like, he's either standing there confidently with his arms crossed, or right when he's about to die, he takes a knee and looks tired. So if the tournament goes way against him and he has no way of winning, it will be very obvious that he's losing. But as long as he is not in the critical zone, he's going to have the ideal poker face. No one is going to be able to read him. And the thing about Final Fantasy is, those games have a lot of completely bullshit mini-games in them. In FF10-2, there's this ridiculous coin game that you have to play. There's these crazy collectible card games in FF8 and 9, all of which have nonsensical rules that seem to change from round to round. A game where you just have to collect cards and everything remains consistent from one round to the next is going to be a breeze for Bahamut. He will take this easily. Draco's tail blade's gonna be twitching. Smaug is going to literally keep showing everyone else his cards. Trogdor, I don't know, he only has one arm that he can pick up cards with, so he's probably showing his hand anytime he reaches for his cards or his chips or anything. So Bahamut has this in the bag. He is easily walking out with everything in this casino.
Sounds good. And now, next up is Kit.
So Draco pads in very schmoozily, wearing a tailored tuxedo jacket, tailored and dragon-sized. Just perfect for him. Where did he get such a large tailored tuxedo jacket? Don't worry about it. He got it from his employer. Don't ask questions, all right? He's a smooth dude who's been around long enough to know how to gamble well. So he's sitting at the tables, rolling them. Oh, wait, no, he's not rolling dice. He's playing cards. Look, Draco knows what he's doing. I don't. But look, he's gonna do great. I'm sure people played card games back in medieval times, whatever. Even if he's doing poorly, he can use his tail blade like a mirror to read other people's cards.
Oh!
Like I said, he'll be fine though. So he's schmoozing the ladies with his smooth talk and his cute little dragon lips and cheeks and his Scottish accent and winning big, right? Then he sees the guy that he actually came here for. There's a guy with a scar over his eye is walking into the money room, right? That's the guy Draco really came here for. Draco excuses himself and he sneaks away using his camouflage to perfectly disguise himself as a row of blackjack machines. He breaks into the back area, Scar guy sees him, and then the chase begins. There's a window breaks, fucking Draco unfurls his wings, goes flying after the dude. Roll the James Bond music, motherfuckers, cause he's back! And he's a dragon now. Sean Connery reprises his role in a very special way.
What? Did you lose the poker game? Like, you left the premises?
No, he was winning. He'll be back, but he's got to get this guy first because he's James Bond. James Draco Bond. Look, you'll thank him when the world is saved.
Next up, Claire.
First of all, it was mentioned that Trogdor might have some difficulty holding his cards without showing them to other people because he has one enormous beefy arm growing out of his back. And you are correct. That's why, due to his disability, he got special dispensation. He has a note from his doctor to have a doctor-appointed service cultist who travels along with him and who wears a little vest and holds his cards in front of him so he can look at them. And yeah, he also has come dressed in what looks like just a green hoodie, but it's all pulled up, like a professional player, but it's actually just one of the cultist robes that he's repurposed. In terms of how he plays, he's going to be a real big trash talker. We get the sense of this from when you finally meet him at the end of Peasant's Quest. He talks a lot of trash before he burninates you. I will present you with a paraphrased version of that speech, now modified to better fit these circumstances. Oh, and he has a weird digitized voice. Let me see if I can even do it. It's like, "Sup, mortal? I really appreciate you making the effort to come out all the way here to play cards against me and all, but I'm kind of indestructible. I'm surprised nobody mentioned that to you. I'll admit, though, you've gotten farther than anyone else has. I bet they'll make a statue or something in honor of you somewheres. I can honestly say it has been a pleasure and an honor to take all of your chips." He is also, for the record, not above burninating everyone else's cards if things seem not to be going his way, at which point he will say, "It's a draw. There's no cards left," right? He will insist, "Yeah, it all got burnt. So who's to say who would have won?"
Go Smaug.
Rolling in, wearing a gold cape with a sexy fucking dwarf on either arm. And wearing red heart sunglasses, those classic Lolita sunglasses, so nobody can see those sexy eyes. He sits down at the table, or sort of gets as close to the table as someone of his considerable size can get, which is to say halfway across the room. But you can see from your seat at the table that around his neck on a chain, he is wearing the arrow what would have killed him if he had not been saved for this particular battle. And then he's going to sit down and, get down to business and play some fucking poker. And the way that he plays is he does card counting because he knows every single piece of treasure in his hoard. Bilbo removes a single cup and he knows. So he is going to know what every single card is up to at that table. And then the moment, this is where it's going to all go wrong. Somebody is going to accidentally move a single one of his chips. And he is going to scream, "Thief!" Flip the fuck out, destroy that person, eat them, and then burn the casino to the ground as a show of how they should never, ever cross a dragon. That is how the entirety of Las Vegas was destroyed.
Wow.
That was the most nonsensical thing. Card counting? That's blackjack. What's wrong with you, Bob?
It's like none of us gamble, really.
This is where I leave and try to decide.
All right, great. Thanks, Liz.
Thank you, Liz.
So I know I'm repping Draco, but I just wanted to point out, Dan can confirm, I played Bahamut from Final Fantasy X in one of Dan's games of League.
Aw,
That is correct.
That's nice.
Yeah. I love dragons. Bahamut's my boy, but I also really, really loved Dragonheart when I was a kid, so.
That was one of the first movies that I ever remember crying at.
Yes,
and
so
I
sad.
saw it as a child and thought it was the greatest film that had
Right.
ever been made in the history of cinema, as far as I was concerned.
It was better than I thought it would be. I remembered it being good, but just thinking back at how ridiculous this movie sounds if you try to explain it to a modern audience, I thought it would be more good bad than it was, but it's kind of good a lot of the time. It's genuinely nice and decent movie a lot of it.
It's fine.
I think for how bad it could have been, it holds up okay.
Is this where your ship came from, by the way, Bob? Because I was shipping some people pretty hard in that.
No, although, I do have shippy feelings about it, but I checked on AO3 to see if anybody else had shippy feelings about it, and all their shippy feelings were wrong and bad, and I was angry at them.
It's not Bowen and Draco? Because I feel like that's cool.
Right? That's so obviously the ship, but no, apparently not.
Even as the part where he's like, "Oh, I got a new name for you. Oh, it's dumb. You won't like it." And he's
I know.
like,
I
"No,
was
it's so sweet."
They have a great meet cute. Such a good meet cute.
I mean, they basically start with Vor. You can't really go anywhere from there.
So the shippy feelings, this was because The Hobbit came out around the time that Sherlock was really big. So there is a preponderance. Oh, you would be amazed. So the predominant pairing in Hobbit fandom is Bag and Shield, which obviously is Thorin and Bilbo. But the second biggest one, I believe, is Smaug and Bilbo. I know you're going, but how possible? Shapeshifters. So there's a ton of Cumber Smaug drawn as kind of humanoid dragony boy and getting it on with a hobbit.
Okay.
Is his human form just like Benedict Cumberbatch lying down in a mocap suit?
No, it's slightly sexier than that, but I'm not going to say there are a lot of unnecessary like horns that people have drawn on him.
I need to look these up.
Oh, I just want to tell you, it's called Smogbo, which is the worst name for a ship, but you should look up the art because it is, you know what? No, I'm not going to tell you what it looks like. Just go look it up.
What would be a better name for the Bilbo Smaug pairing, like Billabong? I feel like that would be pretty
Oh,
good.
no. Oh, no. Smilbo.
Smilbo?
No, that's
Smaug, I'd like to...
that is infinitely worse.
No, you're right. Smilbo it is. All right, great. Thank you.
Human Smaug is everything I wanted. He's gorgeous.
All right. So we had 4 dragons here, or dragon mans, or whatever Trogdor is. So,
Indeed.
Bahamut, Smaug, Trogdor, and Draco. Those were our contestants. I was quickly able to eliminate one. Smaug, I'm sorry. You're voted off the island. You were too cocky about your hole. It was a weak point. Goodbye, Smaug.
Goodbye.
Next, let's talk about Trogdor. Claire, you had one of the most enthralling arguments I have ever listened to. It was literally, and I wrote this, quote, "Your argument was literally a suspense thriller that gave me goosebumps," end quote.
Wow.
I'm sensing a butt coming, and I am nervous about this.
However, which is not a butt.
You can't fool me with synonyms, Liz. I'm on to you.
I was interested in the distracted by too much burninating. And the Eldritch entity thing? You were killed by arrows and knights. But still, best argument I've ever heard. This leaves us with Bahamut, Dan, and Kit as Draco. Bahamut, maybe you do have slow eons.
I have slow aeons?
He is an Aeon.
Okay, all right.
Going to Draco, your species was hunted to extinction, and that's not generally a good thing. And medieval Dennis Quaid is problematic.
Is it?
Back to Bahamut, you do stand there and take hits, and that's kind of stupid. Back to Draco, you did get stuck in a tree, and that's lame. But you also have a tail that can shapeshift. So it was really a toss-up between these two. And I think people may take issue with this, but I think looking at how these respective magical creatures have died may be our only clue into who will win. By the sheer will and determination for being the last of his species, having a magical divisible heart, and choosing to die when he wants on his own terms, Draco wins!
Holy shit!
Yay!
Wow.
Go Draco.
Fucking dragon heaven, baby!
You know what? He deserves it. He
Yeah,
does.
He's been through so much.
Just let the boy rest. Good job, Draco. I'm happy for him, personally.
Time for the beautiful dragon thanks. Everybody in this match is so beautiful except for Trogdor, but he's cute in his own way, you know what I'm saying? So, first of all, speaking of handsomeness, my bonus content is out, if you haven't seen it yet. The patrons voted for me to draw Blasto from the last Shipwrecked, where he is dressed up like a cowboy, because he's out on a ranch having a nice date. And I kind of took him in a Doc Holliday from Tombstone direction.
He's so good. So good.
Thank you.
That was the bonus content that Kit produced for April. This month, Miles is coming out with a talk that he and Megan Bob are having about The Good Place. So that sounds like it's going to be delightful.
It'll be great. So yeah, get you some jellyfish alien dressed as a cowboy now. Then get some Good Place next month. It'll be fantastic. Oh wait, or this month? I don't remember how this shit works. Just look at the Patreon once in a while, guys. Moving on to Twitter. Thank you to 3 Owls in a Jedi Robe, Jake the Redacted Jake, oh shit, Jeff Rick Present, Sean Boyd, Icon Jade, Florian Cosplay Fiend, Cosplay Devotee, Fortebari, Sandwich Surplus, Vander Turner, Steve Atwell, Mike Carbuccia, Robert Ramsey, and I Think Ray is the Chosen One, which is secretly FatBlunt69. Over to Tumbles, thank you to Changing Shades, Sir Rabbit Blog, Secretly a Skeleton and Not Very Bright Raven. And on Facebook, thank you to Sarah Rose and Jeff Polier.
Thanks also to various patrons, going back to talking about Patreon. First of all, Don Michael Coquin, who is, what was his position at Gringotts, Liz? I was a little unclear.
He was like the president of Gringotts.
Oh, okay, sure. President of Gringotts.
An Italian wizard. He was
Wait,
a Don.
You made him Italian? Oh no, Liz, he's an Australian listener. Here's your chance.
Liz!
All right.
What have you done?
Italian.
Well, mistakes have been made tonight, but hopefully Don Michael Coquin doesn't think that joining us as a patron was one of them. Because he got written into this storyline, accurate accent or no.
We love you, Don.
As an Italian nobleman wizard. Excellent.
But yeah, patrons get to be included in our storyline. They also, if you are a $5 or up patron, get to vote on which matches they would like to see turned into episodes. And this one was chosen by patron vote. Turns out you guys like big ol' matches, and apparently you like dragons too. And we also did want to thank Grayson Leal, who originally gave us the idea to have a giant dragon battle. We kind of like messed around with the dragons that we were using, but the idea 100% came originally from his head. So thank you to Grayson for this idea. Claire, you want to talk about your recent appearance?
I have been a guest recently on another podcast that I'm very excited to tell y'all about. It is a Power Rangers podcast called The Morphin Grid, with two lovely gentlemen by the name of Jake and Josh. They watch every episode of Power Rangers in order. Right now they're in Power Rangers Time Force, which is probably the best season, or it's like up there. It's one of the best seasons. And I was on an episode called Nadira's Dream Date, in which the Blue Ranger goes out on a date with one of the main villains, and hilarity ensues. It is a very silly episode of Power Rangers, and it was fun to get to talk about it.
It was fun to listen to, too. That episode came out a couple of weeks ago as this episode dropped, so you might need to scroll back a couple of weeks to see it, but it is well worth hunting down because Claire and everyone else on that episode is very funny and very entertaining.
Yeah, or just listen to that podcast in general, because they're great.
Yeah.
Am I and my, all my Godzilla love allowed to listen to that podcast?
I guess that's between you and Godzilla, man.
I'll have to ask him.
Thank you for listening to this episode of Smash Fiction. Next week, we have Extraordinary League 41, and after that, Mystery Science Theater 3000 versus The King in Yellow.
Smash Fiction is produced by Megan Bob, with logo design by Claire Mulcairn.
Special thanks to Kevin MacLeod of the Clan MacLeod at Incompetech.com for our theme song, Hitman.
You can find us on Twitter at SmashFic Podcast and search for the Smash Fiction Podcast on Facebook, Tumblr, and YouTube.
Subscribe on Apple Podcasts or your podcatcher of choice, and if you leave us a good review, we shall become more powerful than you can possibly imagine.
Smash Fiction is made possible thanks to our supporters on Patreon at patreon.com/smashfictionpodcast. Please consider donating as little as $1 each month. It helps us keep the show going, and we have great rewards and extra content for those who help us out.
If you have any suggestions, feedback, or other contributions, send them to us at smashfictionpodcast@gmail.com and help us continue the fight.
Bahamut! There we go. I need to go first for this. I've heard that your attacks are slower than other Aeon's attacks.
Excuse me, what? Can you say that again, Bob?
Your Honor, that sounds like hearsay to me.
Can I just hear that again?
Is asking your husband about Final Fantasy trivia hearsay and thus inadmissible?
I have heard through...
We called Neil Butler to the stand so that he can be
reputable
cross-examined.
sources
Without a warrant.
that Bahamut's attacks are slower than the attacks
I demand to face my accuser.
of other Aeons.
Let me just write that in my notepad. I'm surprised no one brought up the fact that Trogdor can't fly.
Can he not?
Can't he, though?
I don't think he can.
I mean, he has tiny little wings.
I guess.
We don't see him
So,
fly.
and
to
no
be
one,
fair.
no one jumped on that. So I thought that was really a drop in the court for all of you guys. Come on, all right.
I mean, we only have so many points
That's
to
not
bring
what
I
being
know.
a judge is. You don't give us negative points for not mentioning things you thought of. That's not how it works.
Moving on as best judge in the world.